Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Charmed. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, obviously, Maggie and, Mel are working more on their abilities and stuff like that. In particular, Maggie's taking, self-defense lessons from Jordan, and obviously they're paying off. A combination of that plus practicing with her premonition abilities, she's actually gotten pretty good at it. It seems like Jordan doesn't remember everything. He remembers Parker attacking, but he doesn't remember all the other supernatural stuff. I think he was knocked out at the time, so all that supernatural stuff that went down, he didn't see. Luckily for them, they didn't have to wipe his memory and stuff like that. But obviously Jordan, and it, obviously like Jordan caring about Maggie is affecting his relationship with his girlfriend, because it's like, why are you getting so mixed up in her drama? It's like, yeah, but it's like, she's my friend and her boyfriend. It's like, yeah, and she nearly got a concussion from that ex of hers. So it's like, but at the same time, it's like, it shows that he's compassionate. But you could also look at that as like, that's going to turn into some trouble, because like Lola might start thinking like, apparently you care more about Maggie than me. While you're worrying about Maggie dealing with her issues, I'm gonna ace my exam. It's just like, at the same time, it's like, could be a little more compassionate. But in this situation, I get it. It's like, why are you so... Because I'm sure it can be concerning, because it's like, why is my boyfriend all of a sudden worried about someone else? It's like, friend, I'm sure, she might look at friends as in quotes, so it's like, it's a complicated situation, but, it is nice to know, Jordan's got Maggie's back like that, because he's like, yeah, especially after how scary Parker is, it's like, okay, you can understand, like, like what she's kind of running from and everything, so... It put things in an interesting, perspective. And obviously, Mel is mastering her powers too, going from, rather than molecular manipulation, it's like Matter Master, which is like, all right, I like the abbreviation. Well, I like the new titling of it. But sadly, same thing doesn't apply to Macy, because Macy, even with the Amber, she's not unlocking her abilities. Now, that kind of makes my brain think in two different spots. I mean, at least she has her demon abilities, but part of me wonders, is it because of her demon side that her powers aren't returning? But also at the same time, like, she's trying to do telekinesis. I think she's trying to get anything to come out, but more so, I think she's trying telekinesis, but it's like, well, everyone's abilities have shifted. No one's ability is exactly what it was before. It's something different now. So I'm assuming her power is too, but it might be like her demon powers might nullify the effects of the Amber, so what benefited Mel and Maggie won't benefit her. Like, she'd probably have to like suppress her demon side again, like, and then she could probably restore her witch abilities. That's what I'm thinking. Or it could just be the state of where things are, the complicated situation she's in with Harry, because it's like, she kind of references, like, it's like, oh yeah, demons, they can be kind of very compelling when they've got you in close proximity. And he thinks about kissing, when him and Abigail kissed, and it's like, I wonder, does he know that Macy saw that, or that just came to his mind? Because like, I think even, this side of Harry being who he is, it kind of makes him feel bad, in the grand scheme of things. So... it was like, I shouldn't have done that, because he feels the way he does about Macy and the way Macy feels about him. It's a whole complicated thing. But Maggie had a vision of the Darklighter, so now they know that the Darklighter is alive. He has been for a while. It is interesting, though, that he hasn't attacked them in all the time, because I guess whoever his master is has been like, let the Charmed Ones do their thing. We got more pressing matters, so they're not important right now. So, because it hasn't even popped up that other witches have died either, so... Like I said, it's interesting. Not unless the Darklighter is kind of on his own. I wouldn't think so, but, we'll see. But Maggie has a vision, and they decided, try and track down the Darklighter, going to this hotel and everything, well, motel. And lo and behold, who do they run into? Ray. That was a surprise. Like, well, it's really only Mel's dad, but obviously it's Maggie's dad as well. He raised her. But, well, you have to put quotes around that. But, that was, because I was wondering, like, I guess it was just kind of like, oh man, our dad, he's dead, it's just kind of like, I guess, because I thought it was probably, I guess, just character development of like, oh, like, they're just going to have to go through this, trauma of like, oh yeah, their dad died. Obviously, Mel had complicated feelings about it. So did Maggie, but she was a little more forgiving than Mel was, just because Mel kind of knew who their dad really was, whereas Maggie was a little more forgiving with the whole situation. But regardless, find out he's still alive. And not only that, we also find out, not only is he a bit of a heavy gambler, it's also the fact that he's also a thief. That basically any archaeological digs he was on, that was just him finding ancient artifacts, stealing them and selling them on a black market. It's like, we already had a low opinion of you, Dad, and now it's like, you got it even lower. I don't know how you did that. You did it even worse and everything. And it's like, okay. And then, like, apparently there's someone after him, so they bring him back to the house and everything. It's like, all right, to protect him and everything, we're going to have to tell him. Like, part of me the entire time, I'm like, that's going to bite them in the ass in some shape or form. Like, I don't know, like, because I feel, me personally, I just feel like Ray's going to take advantage of that in some shape or form. Their access to magic, he might try to manipulate it, to kind of benefit himself, because it seems like that's kind of his thing. I don't know. Like I said, I'm kind of like Mel. I'm very pessimistic towards Ray, but, we'll see in the long run what it ends up happening. But it leaves them with complicated feelings, because now it's like, because I love that we also kind of make their opinion once again get lower of their dad. It's like, oh, apparently while they were away at their mom's funeral after, his ex had died, he went in their house and stole some stuff of hers. And it's like, what? After mom's funeral, stole something? He was like, she wasn't going to need it. I was like, dude, that's some low grade shit. That's super messed up. I'm surprised there hasn't been a conversation either, because, like, meeting Macy and everything, I'm like, I'm surprised that didn't turn into a conversation, because, like, Macy was like, oh, is this? It's like, yep, this is our dad, Ray. And I was like, huh. I'm surprised Ray didn't have any conversations. Like, oh, so you're Macy. So, like, you're, like, you're the other daughter. Like, I wonder, did he ever hear anything? I mean, I'm sure their mom probably kept that super, like, I mean, especially everything related to, Macy, the whole dying and being brought back. So it's she ended up having to leave her child behind and everything. So I'm sure that's a conversation their mom wasn't really willing to have with Ray. I don't know. I wonder to see if there's going to be more of that in the future, of whether, like, maybe it might turn into a situation where Mel and Maggie, in particular, Maggie might have a blind side when it comes to their dad. Mel, not as much, but, she might kind of start lowering her guard, that maybe Macy has to be the one. I'm like, yo, you might want to be careful around your dad. Her and Harry might kind of represent that side of things, but, we'll see in the long run. But, it's really, interesting, him being like, oh, yeah, like, ancient civilization is what he's looked into, and lo and behold, there's been kind of, like, elements of that under his eyes and nose the entire time, because his daughters are witches, his ex-wife was a witch. It was all there in front of him. He just didn't realize it. But then there's, like, a thing that, because it seems like maybe he might be related to how the Dark Lighter got free, because there was a talisman he took from their mom's stuff, and then, like, he sold that off, and then he sold off a whole bunch of stuff, and it turns out the thing he has is the Dark Lighter's weapon, and in fact, he's actually the one that sold it to whoever. So it might be whoever he sold it to is the person that awakened the Dark Lighter, but he doesn't know, because it's an intermediated type of business. You don't know who's, they might know who Ray. That's the question, though. Do they know who Ray is? Do they know that Ray is Mel and Mel and Maggie's dad? Well, mainly just Mel's, but you get what I'm trying to say. So it's like, that might be a thing. Like, they knew that Ray would have access to certain things. But, because the fact is, he did say that he covered his tracks so he can make it so that he never wanted anything to kind of get trailed back to them. But you still never know what the bad guys might have found out about him and stuff like that. So that's kind of something to keep in mind. But there was that interesting box that they were able to open, that thing inside. That was pretty. I almost thought like maybe because at first it shatters the cloaking spell of the house. I almost thought like, wait, did it just kind of get rid of their magic temporarily or something? Because, like, I thought, oh, the magic around the cloaking was gone. But it's like, no, it's because this thing is kind of like, it's meant to be like a beacon. The fact of the matter is, it's meant to kind of make it so that anyone that steals this totem can't hide. And so that's why it shattered the cloaking spell for a bit. And then they're being chased by a fury. And it's so interesting, like, we didn't get a full display of what they necessarily do, but it was interesting. Like, basically, every time you attack these things, because Maggie hits it with her, what would you call those? Baton, right. And it split. Then Macy later on hits it with a fireball, and it splits again. So it's like, that's so interesting. I mean, it's supposed to be a protector or guardian, so it, like, depending, like, because it, like, recognizes, like, oh, this is danger, gotta split again. So, but it seems like they just suck up stuff. I don't know whether that, because the way it kind of looked like it might be sucking your life force or your soul, whatever the case may be. It was pretty nice that Ray, ended up, he was like, it's like, I got to make this up to you. It's my time to kind of protect you because I wasn't there. Which obviously, like I said, Mel and Maggie have issues, and it makes sense too, especially Maggie being the former empath, because like Maggie wears her heart on her sleeves, which isn't a bad thing; it's a good thing. I feel like because she's the one that's more in tune with her feelings than everyone else, because everyone else kind of trippy toed. Macy and Mel have a tendency to kind of bury their feelings a little bit. Once again, no shame. Once again, I talk about it all the time. I kind of do the same thing, which isn't me trying to be like I'm not trying to glorify that. It's like it's kind of a sucky thing, kind of defense mechanism. But regardless, for Maggie, this whole situation with her dad, it's just like, because being around him and he's telling that story about like, looking at the Orion star constellation and everything, and it's like, you remember that? She's like, no, because for her, it's like growing up, it's like, I literally kept thinking like, what did I do wrong? If I was a better daughter, maybe you would have stayed. And it's like, why did you leave? For him, it's like, it was a complicated situation. It's like, I did wrong in the marriage, but so did your mom. Like, the fact is, it just didn't work out. And for him, I think it's a thing of like, and this is something I've kind of talked about in other shows. Like, I think it is that thing of, it's kind of similar to, if you're caught up with Doctor Who, it's kind of like Ryan and his dad's relationship, where Ryan's dad says and I think kind of applies in this aspect between Maggie and Ray. The fact is, when you mess up, you feel like you've messed up so much that you don't think there's a reason to keep going, essentially. Like, to try and mend it, because you're like, nothing you can say or do will fix it, because, you just made things worse, and just so much time has passed, and it's like, you feel like there's no correcting it, because even more mistakes have kind of piled up, and you're like, because it kind of keeps you from trying. I think it's because you think in your head, like, I've messed up so much, this person, so why even open up that can of worms? Like, they had their mom, they're okay, but it's like, even after her funeral, you didn't come back into their lives, because he felt like, I don't have room to be back in your lives because I left you for so long. And it's like trying to step back in your life just because, I'm your dad and your mom's going, like, I don't have that right. So I think that's what he meant when it was complicated. But, for Maggie, she admits, like, no, I do remember. For her, it's just so painful to remember, because it's like one of her favorite memories of her dad. But it's like, it kind of gets overshadowed by all the good. It's easily overshadowed by the bad. So, but I think it gets made up by the fact is that, hey, he did save her life in the end. So I thought that was pretty neat. So, and I was curious, like, at the end of this, is Ray going to leave or not? And even Mel was like, oh, of course. Yeah, he saved your life and everything, but of course he left. But it's like, no, he's back. No, he's still here. And I guess we're going to be seeing a lot more of him around. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see kind of how that ends up playing out. Like I said, what kind of effect that's going to have on them all in general, with him sticking around. Maybe he might cause more harm than good, like I was saying earlier. It is interesting, though, because it turns out, like, okay, so Maggie's abilities aren't proximity-based, they're object. Like, it's when she touches an object connected to someone, and then object connected to someone, then she has a vision about it, because like she ended up touching the cup of Ray's that was like his favorite, so it had a tie to him. So I'm trying to remember if Phoebe's premonitions worked like that, because I think hers were like, I don't remember, it's been a while, so I don't remember if hers were just like, I had the vision. I think it was like she touched people. I don't remember if hers was connected to objects like Maggie's is, like, because Maggie's approach to it might be like a remix version of it. Well, because every time she touched like Jordan's ring, because it has significance to him, plus the black amber kind of amplified it. But now that she has better control of it, it's like it's more so objects rather than proximity. So, like I said, I don't remember Phoebe's work like that. It might have actually been a combination. Like hers might have been people and objects. I'm curious, is Maggie's going to grow into just being able to touch people? Will she just randomly have because that's her empath abilities worked at first. Was like she touched people and she was able to have, So I'm curious, like, in the long run, kind of what kind of develops from that. But kind of on the other side of things, there's this dude named Julian who shows up, who's played by Eric Balfour. I was like, hey! The thing I probably know him best for is playing Duke on Haven. I actually couldn't remember Duke's name like earlier when I was trying to think about it, and it randomly came to me. I was like, oh crap, I remember that. It's been a while. But it's a great supernatural show if you've never seen it. Last time I checked, the entire show was on Netflix, but with Netflix's licensing rights and stuff like that, you always have to be careful because that stuff could always like disappear in an instant. So, but to my recollection, it's still on Netflix for now. So I highly recommend if you ever get the chance to like watch it. It's a really good show. But that's the thing, like I best know Eric Balfour for. But regardless, it's pretty interesting to see him, this new dude, Julian, popping up at SafeSpace. It turns out like he's like some big like billionaire, and he has like his plans, because basically, and I like that story you told of like the red jacket and everything. It's like idiots like us are kind of the ones that basically kind of see things from a different perspective, or visionaries kind of, and so he wants to basically dig a subterranean and make crops so it doesn't need, in case, because of global warming and stuff like that, like in case stuff can't be grown like outside, that we grow stuff underground. But it's like, oh, our base of operations is underground, so Maggie has to kind of deal with that. I mean, not Maggie, Macy, I keep doing that, has to deal with that. So she goes on a date. She was going to use an influencing spell, which Harry was like, wait, you're going on a date with him? It's like, yeah. And it's just kind of like it's the thing of neither one is realizing, like, they're not, it's like, it's right there. Once again, it's kind of very reflective. Obviously, like I said, it's remixed, but it's reflective of Piper, and a combination of Piper and Leo's relationship, also a combination of Phoebe and Cole. Well, no, Phoebe and Cole is more so Maggie and Parker, obviously. But regardless, it's like, well, to be fair, like Piper and Leo definitely had their ups and downs in their very complicated relationship, so things will be complicated in this one, and it just gets more and more complicated. Because actually, Macy tried to kind of work around Julian working there, like doing what he's trying to do. So she's trying to find workaround and trying to make excuses like, oh, the soil. He's like, no, I had people check it out. The salamander. She kept trying to fight him on every reasoning why he should be, using the subterranean levels as a place to grow the crops and stuff like that. Be digging it out and stuff like that. But it turns out, because she was about to use the influencer potion on him, but she didn't have to, because at the end he was like, yeah, it turns out my people didn't really check out stuff like I told them to. So thank you for that. So I really am. So it's like, it's nice, because for him, it's like, I get to have like an honest conversation with someone. So Macy, feeling bad, was like, I don't need you under the influencer potion. So she made him spill his wine. So, and obviously Harry sees them. Well, Harry and Mel see him. Mel didn't say anything, because I guess she didn't probably think too much of it, but obviously Harry did. And it's like, oh, it's like, oh, how was your date? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I ruined your date and everything. And she was like, no, it was for us to kind of make sure our base stayed okay. And he's like, right. And it's like, that's definitely going to be a sore situation going forward, because you can definitely tell it seemed like Macy and Julian hit it off, especially because, and I like that conversation, because for Macy, she ended up having to leave her job behind. I mean, to be fair, there was a lot of complicated stuff related to her job. I mean, that's the whole Gavin situation. Well, to be fair, she was going to like get another job opportunity until the whole Darklighter situation happened and they had to go into hiding. So, but her dream job, she got it, and she kind of had to keep it on. She has to put her career on hold, especially because that sciencey stuff, it's like that's what she loves, that's what she's passionate about. But maybe working, like, crossing paths with Julian more, maybe she can kind of get a little bit of kind of try to balance that more of like working with him while also protecting her family, while also doing the whole witch thing, so, which obviously, like I said, that's going to get complicated with Harry, which also complicates even more because Abigail legitimately has a thing for Harry. She probably never admit it, but she want Harry on her side. Like, it's probably just a thing of like, oh, I'm gonna manipulate him and stuff like that. But it's like, no, she legitimately likes Harry, because despite who she is, she feels like Harry kind of accepts her as she is and kind of likes her. Like, just kind of like how almost opposites attract in the case of Abigail and Harry, but also kind of similarly yet different with Macy and a Darklighter, just because it's almost like, I guess because she has a little bit of darkness in her, it represents the kind of little bit of darkness that was Harry, So there's that, whole complicated situation. But that situation gets even more complicated because Jordan remembers what Parker had called her. He was like, Vera, and he types in her name, and it's like, oh, and sees that Maggie's name, it came up, and it's like, oh, rest in peace, Maggie Vera, and it's like, she's dead. So it's like, now he knows, like, oh, she's so terrified of this dude. In his mind, it's like, oh, she's so terrified of Parker, even though it wasn't Parker, but Parker had this complicated thing. To be fair, it was his sister Abigail, obviously we know from the last episode. But the fact of the matter is, for him, it's like, oh, she's in so desperate need of hiding that she's literally faked her death. And he wants to talk to her about it, but he doesn't bring it up. I was like, oh, what are you going to do about that knowledge, George? He's like, wait, Maggie, wait. He follows her, and she disappears. He's like, wait, where'd she go? And it's like, oh, boy. Another little wrench in all of this. So complications all around. Kind of a three-way complication because of like everything with Harry and Macy. Obviously for Maggie and Mel, it's the whole thing of their dad being back, but also like now Jordan and Maggie. It's going to be interesting to ultimately see where all this takes us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.